Hello and welcome to the second part of this Goodreads reading challenge vlog. I'm refilming an intro because if you've watched part one you will know that I decided to split this vlog into two parts only halfway through. So this vlog needed a new intro, which is what this is, and it's a little bit rustic and Shinji wants to go away, but hey, this is what we're dealing with. I don't discuss any of my kind of TBR or anything in this particular video, so I do recommend going and watching part one first if you haven't already. But without any further ado, we'll get into it. I start off by reading Once Upon a Broken Heart, so here it is. Where am I? I'm on chapter 10, I think, which is page 74. I've put it in my fabric or pleather book sleeve and the edges are so pretty. And what is this one about? What can I say? It's about Evangeline, who makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts to stop her stepsister from marrying Evangeline's one true love or whatever. And of course it goes wrong because you shouldn't make a deal with a fate, and I'm enjoying the crossover actually between this and the Caraval trilogy, which I did not realise was going to be a thing, so that's kind of fun. And I'm not very far in, but it should be a pretty quick read, so I'm hoping to read a good portion of that this evening and probably finish it tomorrow because I'm listening to the audio and I have 3 hours and 17 minutes left, so probably too much to finish tonight because it's a work night. Reading update time, and as usual I haven't been so good at keeping this updated, so I have finished Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I liked it. It was a light, fun, easy read. It really ends on a cliffhanger, so be aware of that. It kind of came out of nowhere. I really wasn't expecting it to kind of just end, and so I definitely want the sequel. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have read it had I known that, but I think it's worth being aware that I was just kind of reading this on the tube and all of a sudden it was over and I was like, oh, the story is still going on, which I knew it was a trilogy, a series. I think it's a trilogy, but I wasn't quite expecting it to be quite so cliffhangery. I don't think I've read a book quite as cliffhangery for a long while. It also had a lot more crossover with the Caraval series than I was actually anticipating, but I was saying to Jessie from The Bookish Mum the other day, you need to read the Caraval series to read this in the same way that you need to read Warbreaker to read Words of Radiance, which is to say you don't really need to, but it's a good idea, a little bit like Marvel. So I finished this, I want the next one, I really enjoyed it, and so far we're off to a good start. I don't think this will be my favourite, but it was still a fun time. I haven't actually told you what this is about, I don't think. Well, if I haven't, this one is about, I'm really bad with names, what is her name? Evangeline Fox, who makes a deal with the Prince of Hearts to stop her cousin from marrying Evangeline's one true love. I think I have told you this already, and of course it goes wrong because you shouldn't make deals with fates. We learnt that in the Caraval series. What am I reading right now? I am reading Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, which is book 2 in the Last Hours trilogy. I think it's going to be a trilogy, and realistically the reason I picked this up is because it's a floppy paperback, and I do love me a floppy paperback. I'll tell you where I am in the book because I haven't updated updated my bookmark location. So I'm on chapter 6 and my bookmark is in chapter 2. So let's find chapter 6 so I can tell you how many pages I have read. I started this yesterday on the way to work and I haven't really read that much of it yet. There we go. I am here, 112 pages in. I am enjoying it so far. I did have to watch a little recap-y style video of book 1 because it's been like way over a year since I read book 1, but I'm enjoying it so far. There is a relationship dynamic which is like the main relationship that we're following. I'm trying to be vague so that it's not spoilery for anyone who hasn't read either this one or the first one. So there's a relationship dynamic. It's the main one that I'm talking about. If you know, then you know, and I'm not loving that. I can see what trope the author is trying to do, Cassandra Clare is trying to do, and I've seen it done better. And I wish it was being done better. I feel like it's attempting to do that trope but not do that trope, and I wish that we just went full into that trope. Sorry to be so vague, I know that was really annoying, but I don't want to spoil, and if you have read them then you do know what I'm talking about anyway. So that's where I'm at with that one. I'm going to carry on reading that, and once I have finished it I will let you know. It's quite long, this book, so it may be a day or two before I am able to update you. It is 572 pages, and as I said, I'm only on page 112, so I've got, what, 460 pages left, so probably a couple of days worth of reading. I will keep you posted, hopefully more often, but no promises. I have now finished Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, and firstly I accidentally broke the book spine. I don't know if you can even tell. While I was reading this I was just holding it and I reached for something and it like flopped itself open, so that's really sad, but not a big deal. So I was talking to Abby and Joanna about this, and Cassandra Clare does this thing where there's all this angst and tension between the characters, like in the middle of the book and for the vast majority of the book, and then just at the end we start to see some progress on that angst and tension. Conversations start happening, progress starts being made, and then the book ends with a cliffhanger on that tension, so that when we start off the next book we can just be dumped right back into the tension, and the whole of the book will once again be that tension until the end of the trilogy. So this is book 2. Book 3 is not out until November of next year, and I find it frustrating. So it's not that I disliked this book by any means. I don't think it was fantastic. I didn't find the main sort of plot line, I guess, of this story. I mean, the main plot line is the tension between the characters, which I find really aggravating because I just want everyone to start having a conversation. I don't have any friends who have read this one yet, mostly because they are doing themselves a service by waiting until book 3 comes out and then they're going to binge it if they're interested. And so I didn't really have anyone to vent my frustrations to, so I vented to Lee, who clearly had no idea what I was on about, but he did agree with all the things I was describing being annoying. And there are a lot of elements of this that are just very annoying and frustrating, and the characters were driving me a little bit just up a wall, to be honest. So I will read the sequel when it comes out, because we'll finally have some resolution to all of those angsty, tension-filled things, but I would recommend that you do what my friends are doing, which is just hold off on reading this until the last one is out so that you can save yourself the frustration that I felt when I finished this, and still slightly feel now, that we were finally making some progress and then it ended. Not that it was just like a random abrupt ending or anything, I could see the ending coming, but yeah, so it's not going to be my favourite by any means. So anyway, that's where I'm at. So I now have, technically I only have 2 left, but I actually have to read 3 more books because I need to catch up with the Ember in the Ashes series. So I have Iron Widow, and then I have got to read A Reaper at the Gates before I can read A Sky Beyond the Storm. So clearly I have to read this one first, so I might do this one, and then unless I'm like at the end of this need to immediately pick up Sky, then I might go Reaper, Iron Widow, and then Sky Beyond the Storm. I don't know. We'll see how I feel as I'm working through. Reaper I'm kind of struggling with. I've been listening to it. I went Christmas shopping with my mum and my sister yesterday, and so I listened to Reaper whilst I was driving to fetch my mum and after dropping her back off at home. Oh, this is in Roman numerals. Chapter 14, I think. I'm not as far in as I thought. I'm probably somewhere around here. So somewhere around the 100-page mark. I'm 33% in, and it's about 450-ish pages. So that's probably about right. I'm about 100 pages in. And it's been a little while, not ages, but a little while since I read A Torch Against the Night. So I looked up a recap on YouTube, and Sabatahir actually filmed recaps of An Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night for each of the characters on the Penguin Teen channel. That's nice. This is one of the teas in my T2 Christmas Advent calendar, and this is the Jade Mountain tea. And it's green tea with like brittle and chocolate. It's quite nice actually. It's got a nutty flavour because it's got tree nuts in it. So anyway, so I watched those recaps. There's one for Laia and Elias and Helene. I found those really useful because it's just kind of the main plot points for each of those 3 characters. So I needed that, and then I carried on. I basically read chapter 1 and was like, I need a recap. So then I carried on. Honestly though, I am struggling with this. I feel like I liked An Ember in the Ashes, and it has the competition trope, so I particularly liked that element of it. And then if you don't want any spoilers, wait until I put this down, just skip ahead. But this is just kind of the trope, the main tropes for the books, so if you've read them then you know what they are anyway, and if you don't want to know, skip until I put this down. But book 2 is more of a questing type trope, so Torch Against the Night is more of a questing type trope. That's not really my thing. I'm not a big fan of the whole quest thing. In some contexts I like it, and in others I don't. It's my main problem with the Wheel of Time, for example. And this one is kind of a continuation of that quest. So A Torch Against the Night is travelling, journeying type quest, and this one's more of a I have a job to do type quest, if you understand my meaning. And that's just not my cup of tea. Pun intended. It's just not my thing in terms of book content, so I didn't love book 2, and I'm not loving this. Honestly, I'm finding it very difficult to care about what's happening, which means that I'm not engaging with the story particularly well, which makes me really want to DNF it. But then I also really don't want to DNF it because I have heard that this book is really good and that the ending is really explosive, so I kind of want to read it. Also, I have these beautiful editions and I feel like I have to kind of push myself, and also I want to read this for this challenge. So I'm in a really conflicted place with this right now because, as I said, I'm only sort of 100 pages into a 450 page book, and I am trying to get better about DNFing stuff when I'm not interested. So I kind of want to DNF it and I kind of don't. So that's where I'm at right now, and I guess I'll update you once I am in a more decisive place. Okay, I'm back. It's now the new year. I'm about to sit down and do a bunch of bulk filming, which is why my setup looks a bit more like this than my usual vlog style. And as usual, I've done a bunch of reading and not updated you, so what's new? So just to briefly bring you up to speed with where I am, I did go ahead and read A Reaper at the Gates. This isn't technically included in this reading challenge, I just had to read it to be able to read Sky Beyond the Storm, which I have also read. But just briefly, didn't love this, nearly DNF'd it quite a few times. The only reason I didn't was because I wanted to read Sky Beyond the Storm for this vlog. And it's just a little bit of a meh book in my opinion, but I'll come back to that when I speak to you about Sky. The next thing I read was Iron Widow by Xiran Jie Zhao, and I really loved this book. This was so good. I enjoyed it a lot. It's not super dark, but it leans into the brutality, which I actually really enjoyed. It is loosely, and it says that, I think there's an author's note. Is that what it's called? Yeah, there's an author's note of sorts at the beginning of the book about how it's just very loosely based on some aspects of Chinese history, but it's a sci-fi novel. So it's not set on our world, it's not set as part of human history, it's completely, very loosely using some cultural things from China, but otherwise it's its own thing, and I really enjoyed it. It is about an Iron Widow. So in this world there are these, they're called chrysalises. They're essentially spaceships that look like animals that are piloted by one man and one woman, and typically the woman will die whilst assisting with the piloting of this vessel, but our protagonist comes along and she is one of a select few, very select few women who actually ends up killing her male pilot, so she's dubbed an Iron Widow. And so she then gets paired with the most powerful and dangerous male pilot that exists, and I loved this so much. The writing was easy to follow. The names are a little bit difficult for me because clearly I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese or any Chinese languages, so it was a little bit, I was listening to the audiobook, but it was a little bit difficult for me to keep track of the names, but that's not really any different to a lot of epic fantasy stories that I read, but I really enjoyed the Chinese cultural elements that were in here. I enjoyed the brutality. I know that sounds weird, but I like it when a book doesn't shy away from the realities of the war that they've created in the world that we're set in, which this book really doesn't. We had a really strong female protagonist. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and spoilers, it's made it into my top 10 of the year, so loved this. I also then read Sky Beyond the Storm. I'm really pleased that I actually managed to finish this yesterday, which was the final day of 2022, so 2021. So I managed to finish this reading challenge within 2021, which is something I was really keen to do because my reading challenge last year spilled over into the new year when I was ready to get started on new things. So this one I liked much better than A Reaper at the Gates, and I also liked it much better than A Torch Against the Night. The thing with this series is that I feel like it could have been a duology, maybe a trilogy at a push, but it did not need to be a quartet, in my opinion. I feel like it would have been much better as a duology if we'd just made An Ember in the Ashes a little bit longer. Then we could have finished this off in 2 books. 3 at a stretch. I think if it had stretched to 3, book 2 still would have been a little bit on the slow side, but as it is, we ended up with 2 books in the middle that were just a bit slow and boring, in my opinion. And then by the time I got to the 3rd book, the 4th book even, I just didn't care as much anymore. So this book was much, much better. The pacing was much better. There was a lot more going on. I enjoyed all of the characters. We got a couple of extra perspectives in this one, which I won't specify what they were in case you haven't read this series yet. And I would still recommend the series, but just be ready for the fact that the 2 middle books have major middle book syndrome. My main problem with this is the ending. I didn't really like the ending. If you don't want any spoilers at all, I'm not going to be spoilery, but if you don't want to hear anything about the ending, then skip ahead until I put this book down. But basically, I just found the ending a little bit too neat and convenient for my tastes. I feel like, unlike with this book, which leaned into all of the, you know, danger and brutality, this book didn't really do that. That's all I'll say, because I don't want to get too spoilery. If you've read this and want to discuss with me, let me know in the comments. Happy to chat with you about it, but not my favourite. So that means that I have now read all of the books in the top 10 that I was planning to read. So there were a few that I wasn't planning to read because they were sequels and things. So the winner was Rule of Wolves. I haven't read that because I still haven't read Crooked Kingdom, and I haven't read King of Scars either, so I couldn't read that one. Chain of Iron I've read. Law I have read. I haven't dug it out though, because I keep Law in my pile of Fairy Loot and Illumicrate books over there, and because it's a bigger one, it's nearer to the bottom of the pile, and I'm just not going to deal with that. So I've got it, but it's over there. Anyway, The Wind Blows is Simon Snow book 3, so I've not read that. King of Elfhame, I have read that one. I suppose I should talk to you about how I felt about the ones that I haven't read in this particular vlog. So Law was fine. I didn't love it. I don't think I need to say much more than that, to be honest. It was okay. How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. I have this beautiful Fairy Loot edition, very, very shiny and pretty. So, you know, if there were a book, maybe I'll do that. I'll put these books also in order of aesthetically pleasingness. I'll do that as well, because why not? So I liked this, but I didn't love it. It was fun. It was fun, but it was unnecessary, but it was fun. I don't know why it's in this top 10, but hey. Iron Widow was next. We've just discussed that one. The Gilded Ones by Namina Fauna came in after that. I liked this. I read this in 2020, I think. Maybe I did read it in 2021, you know, I don't know. But if it was 2021, it was right at the beginning of the year. It might have been 2020. Either way, I liked this. Again, this one leans a little bit more into the brutality. I found it interesting. The world was engaging. The characters were engaging. It's not super fresh in my memory. It hasn't sort of stuck with me in that way, but I did like it at the time that I read it. Then it was Our Violent Ends. I DNF'd these Violent Delights, so I'm not including that one here. And A Sky Beyond the Storm, we have discussed. And Once Upon a Broken Heart, we have also discussed in this video. So, and that was, I was reading out the order from Goodreads. So I'm taking Reaper off the pile because of course we're not ranking that one. Oh, I forgot about, let me go through the list again. So Rule of Wolves, I haven't read. Chain of Iron, I have read. Law, I've read and it's over there. Any Way the Wind Blows, no. How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories is there. Iron Widow is here. The Gilded Ones, Our Violent Ends, which I didn't read, A Sky Beyond the Storm, and Once Upon a Broken Heart. So of the ones that I am ranking, this is the order Goodreads has them in. Now again, not surprising, we've got Cassandra Clare and Holly Black at the top. Really pleased to see Iron Widow so high up, particularly now that I've read it. And then we have Once Upon a Broken Heart near the bottom. I think that would have done better had it come out a bit longer before the awards were announced. So, as perhaps will not be surprising, my number one is without a doubt Iron Widow. This book was fantastic, loved it, highly recommend. My number two is going to be Once Upon a Broken Heart. This was a really fun time, fast-paced, easy to read, just a good time overall. What am I putting next? I might put the Gilded Ones next, because although it hasn't really stuck with me, I did really enjoy it at the time. Then I think I'm going to go How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, because it was just fun, easy to read, kind of cute, it was good, it was fine, you know, whatever. I can't really hold these, they don't fit in my hand so easily, but let's just do that. Yeah, that works. Then I'm going to have Chain of Iron, because as I've mentioned, I just found this so frustrating. Like, I enjoyed it, but was all the angst necessary? I mean, I know that's what Cassandra Clare does, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. Can we just have some conversations? Please, that would be great. So that's my next one. And then of course that means that, oh, I forgot about Law. Yeah, let me put Law in next, actually. So Law would go here, just because, you know, it was fine. It was just forgettable and boring. But last is Sky Beyond the Storm, because of all the things I said before. Like, this didn't need to be a 4-book series, which isn't this book's fault, but still, it didn't really need to go there, and I just really did not like what the author did with the ending. So this is, ooh, these books are sliding everywhere. This is my order, oh gosh, here we go, of enjoyment, okay? So we have Sky Beyond the Storm at the bottom, then Law, then Chain of Iron, then How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, then The Gilded Ones, then Once Upon a Broken Heart, and then at number one, The Iron Widow. Or Iron Widow, not The Iron Widow. Now, just for fun, let's put them in order of aesthetics, because why not? And I'm talking specifically about my editions, of course, not the standard editions. So number one, I am going to say How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, because I'm a magpie, as we've discussed, and we have gold gilded edges, we have foiling all over the cover, and ooh, shiny gold end pages. It's illustrated throughout, which is not specific to this edition, by the way. They're all editions of this are illustrated. And we have gold embossing on the naked hardback. So this one, without a doubt, wins most aesthetically pleasing book in this stack. After this one, I think we're going to go with Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. The cover itself is very pretty, but look at these edges. These are both Fairy Loot editions, by the way. There we go. We have very, very stunning naked hardback with exclusive end papers and a reversible dust jacket. So that one is also very stunning. So that one's going in there. So that's number 2 for aesthetics. Then at number 3 for aesthetics is, oh hang on, put my author letter back. There we go. Then for number 3 we're going to go Sky Beyond the Storm, which, you know, the cover is nothing particularly special, but sprayed edges. Again, this is a Fairy Loot edition. End papers, and the naked hardback is also very pretty. My camera keeps wanting to focus on Toothless rather than the books. Sorry about that. I mean, he's very cute, so I get it, but it's annoying for you. I apologise. After that one, I think we're going to go the gilded ones, just because I really love all of the foiling on here, and also we have sprayed edges, very pretty. Then we're going to go Iron Widow, because these sprayed edges are also very nice. We just have plain red end papers here, but we do also have foiling on the naked hardback and a reversible dust jacket. This one's an Illumicrate one, not a Fairy Loot. Everything else so far has been Fairy Loot, but this one is Illumicrate, and it's also very pretty. And finally, because there's really, you know, nothing special, I'll tell you what, Lore should have been in here. Lore would probably go between A Sky Beyond the Storm and the gilded ones, but because I can't be bothered to get it out, we're just going to ignore it. Sorry, Lore. The last one is going to be Chain of Iron. I do like how floppy this one is, and I like the cover, but it really can't compete with any of these special editions because they're just stunning. So I thought that was just a little bit of a fun thing to add in here at the end. That's it for this reading challenge. I hope you enjoyed it. Part 1 was middle grade reads, which is already up, so I will link that for you. You can go ahead and watch that if you haven't already. Please do. I put so much work into these 2 videos, particularly because the editing process just went completely wrong with the middle grade one, and my screen recording on my phone just corrupted everything, so I basically had to do it twice. And then I had been editing the first part of this video and then lost that edited footage, so I still got the footage but the raw version, so I'm gonna have to re-edit that and then edit this and then post it. So please, if you haven't already watched that vlog, go ahead and watch it because it was a lot of work. And I hope you've enjoyed these videos. I enjoyed, for the most part, doing the reading for them, and that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks, bye.